I am Judge Lawrence Wargrave. Justice has always been the foundation of my existence. For years, I presided over courtrooms, handing down sentences and upholding the law. Yet I often found myself disillusioned. There were those who slipped through the cracks, guilty individuals who escaped punishment, living freely while their victims bore the weight of their crimes. This sense of injustice haunted me, a relentless shadow that whispered of their impunity. And so, I resolved to act, to establish my own court, where no law could falter and where true justice could prevail. This plan consumed me, requiring meticulous preparation. I would craft a stage, invite the players, and direct the final act. The first step was identifying those who deserved to stand trial. 10 names emerged, each tied to an unresolved crime: a reckless killer, a silent accomplice, a vengeful soldier, a heartless manipulator. All had sinned, yet none had faced justice. It was my duty to change that. The venue for my performance had to be secluded, unreachable, a place where my subjects could not flee. I found such a place, a solitary island off the English coast, isolated by the sea's vast expanse. At its center stood a grand mansion, a fitting stage for my macabre theater. With the island secured, I invented my disguise: Mr. and Mrs. U.N. Owen. Unknown. A faceless host, compelling yet elusive. Invitations were sent, tailored to lure each guest. Some were promised business opportunities, others, nostalgic reunions. Each accepted, unaware of the true purpose behind their summons. When they arrived, I observed them closely. They carried themselves with pride, fear, or indifference, each masked by the facade they had constructed over the years. But masks can only conceal so much. Over dinner, I played my first move. A gramophone recording shattered the evening's civility, listing their crimes one by one. The air turned electric, their faces etched with shock, denial, and fear. The seeds of paranoia had been sown. The first to fall was Anthony Marston. He was a symbol of arrogance and indifference, a man who had caused death without remorse. A poisoned drink ensured his fate. The others watched in horror, realizing their vulnerability. One by one, the others followed. Ethel Rogers slipped into eternal sleep, her mind clouded by a lethal dose of medication. General MacArthur was struck down by the sea, his solitude mirroring the isolation of his guilt. With each death, a figurine disappeared from the dining table, marking their decline and reminding them of the inexorable march of justice. As their numbers dwindled, their fear grew. Suspicion and mistrust consumed them, and alliances shattered under the weight of their paranoia. Thomas Rogers met his end under the swing of an axe. Emily Brent, stoic and unyielding, fell to a poisoned needle, her death disguised as an insect's sting. Dr. Armstrong, whose hubris led him to collaborate with me, was cast into the sea. Each death was calculated, orchestrated to reflect their sins and the eerie rhythm of the nursery rhyme I had chosen as my guide. The final act came with 3 remaining: Vera Claythorne, Philip Lombard, and William Blore. Blore's greed led to his demise, crushed beneath a falling clock. Lombard and Vera turned on one another, suspicion driving their actions. Vera, overcome by guilt and manipulated by my design, took her own life. And then, silence. The island stood empty, its secrets buried in the waves. As for me, I staged my own demise, leaving behind a confession, a letter detailing my plan, my motives, and the justice I had delivered. This was no mere game. It was justice in its purest form, untainted by the imperfections of human law. I am Lawrence Wargrave, the architect of this trial, the voice of justice. And now I ask you, had you been in my place, what would you have done?